Hello everyone, welcome to the 5-Minute Discovery channel. The 2008 global economic crisis left a deep mark on all countries, and among the countries that suffered heavy losses, there is a name that cannot be ignored: Zimbabwe. In the context of a weak economy and heavy public debt, Zimbabwe became the first country of the 21st century to face hyperinflation. The inflation rate in Zimbabwe at that time reached a dizzying level, up to 3.5 million%. This number may be hard to imagine, but let me give you a specific example. An egg at that time cost up to 50 billion Zimbabwean dollars, and a loaf of bread cost the equivalent of about 12 new cars. Inflation was so terrible that prices kept climbing, supply could not meet demand, and the Zimbabwean central bank was forced to print super large denominations, culminating in the 100 trillion Zimbabwean dollar bill. Although the 100 trillion bill was considered the highest denomination on the planet at that time, in reality, this amount was only enough to buy a loaf of bread. This clearly reflected the severe hyperinflation that the country was facing. Before going into the causes of hyperinflation in Zimbabwe, let's take a tour around the world to learn more about this country located in the southern African region. We will explore the outstanding features and circumstances of Zimbabwe before delving into the economic problems that led to the crisis. Before going into the content, please remember to like and subscribe to support the channel. Zimbabwe, a landlocked country in southern Africa, is sandwiched between the larger countries of Botswana and Mozambique. It shares borders with South Africa to the south, Botswana to the southwest, Mozambique to the east, and Zambia to the west. After gaining independence, Zimbabwe was named after the famous 14th-century ancient city of Great Zimbabwe, located in the southeast of the country. This stone-built city is not only an important symbol of ancient civilization but also the inspiration for the country's name. Zimbabwe's unique geography, combined with its rich history and culture, has created a rich and diverse picture of the country. Let's explore Zimbabwe further to better understand the civilization and current state of this beautiful country. Population. Zimbabwe, with an approximately 85% Christian population, is a diverse ethnic and cultural landscape. Approximately 98% of Zimbabwe's population is black, with the Sona community being the most prominent, making up between 80 and 84% of the total population. The Ndebele are next in line, playing a significant role in the country's ethnic mix. Zimbabwe's Europeans are predominantly of British origin, but there are also small numbers of Greek, Portuguese and Dutch descent. The European population has declined significantly since the 1970s, from hundreds of thousands in 1975 to just a few tens of thousands today. With such a rich culture and ethnic diversity, Zimbabwe is not only a historically and socially interesting destination, but also a melting pot of different cultures and beliefs. Let's explore this country deeper to better understand its richness and diversity. History. The history of Zimbabwe, a land of turmoil and change, unfolds a rich and complex story. Before the 17th century, the country was the territory of the Sona people, a civilization with great power and influence. However, this peace did not last long when the Portuguese invaded and caused the Sona kingdoms to collapse. The invasion did not stop there. By the 19th century, the British had also set foot in Zimbabwe, invaded and occupied this land. Although the largest ethnic groups in Zimbabwe bravely rebelled and resisted British oppression, their superior military power and modern weapons made their struggle impossible. As a result, Zimbabwe became a British colony, and the British controlled a large area of land, thereby shaping the future of this country. Over the course of history, Zimbabwe, like many other African countries, fought and regained independence. The most influential man in modern Zimbabwe is an indispensable figure in the story of the struggle for freedom and nation-building. President Mugabe. Zimbabwe, a country that has experienced many historical upheavals, has witnessed an unprecedented period of economic crisis. Especially since the late President Robert Mugabe, a key figure in the country's modern history, took the helm. Robert Mugabe, considered a national hero who led Zimbabwe for nearly 4 decades, was a symbol of hope and renewal. Beloved by many Zimbabweans, Mr. Mugabe was compared to Nelson Mandela, with expectations that he would move the country forward, away from the days of European domination. Upon taking office, Mr. Mugabe quickly gained international recognition for his policies promoting education and health. Zimbabwe also increased its exports of goods, especially tobacco, thanks to ideal weather conditions. However, as the 1990s began, support for Mugabe began to decline. He was criticized for using violence and corruption to maintain power. One of his most serious missteps was agricultural reform, which led to economic disaster. In 1992, Mugabe launched a land reform campaign aimed at eliminating white land ownership. While the goal was reasonable, the campaign led to the collapse of Zimbabwe's agriculture. By 2000, when the campaign was fully implemented, 4,000 white landowners were forced to leave, but agricultural production immediately plummeted. This disaster, combined with a prolonged drought, led to the worst famine in the country's history. In the face of severe food shortages, Zimbabwe's central bank printed money on a massive scale, leading to uncontrolled inflation. By 2008, inflation in Zimbabwe reached 7.9 billion%, with prices doubling every day. A 100 trillion Zimbabwean dollar note became worthless, barely enough to buy a loaf of bread. Unemployment soared, public services collapsed, and the economy tanked. Zimbabwe was forced to abandon its own currency and switch to the US dollar and other currencies in 2009. In 2010, facing accusations of human rights abuses and election fraud, Mugabe threatened to nationalize all Western investments, prompting investors to pull out. The government shifted its focus to mining, but struggled to get nearly half of the diamond mining companies to shut down. The situation continued to deteriorate as severe drought continued to affect the economy. In 2016, Zimbabwe's per capita GDP was just $370, among the lowest in the world. After intense pressure, Robert Mugabe announced his resignation in 2017, ending nearly 40 years in power. Despite the new government taking power, hardships continued. Consumer prices soared at a dizzying pace, annual inflation was 20.9%, and cash became scarce. People had to queue outside banks to withdraw money. Zimbabwe is still struggling with the after-effects of the economic crisis it endured. Zimbabwe's story is not only a lesson in economic crisis but also a testament to the enormous challenges a country faces in its quest for stability and prosperity. 16 different languages. Since the adoption of its 2013 constitution, Zimbabwe has set a remarkable world record, the country with the largest number of official languages in the world. With a total of 16 official languages, Zimbabwe is the country with the most linguistic diversity. Of these, English is one of the 3 most widely used languages, reflecting the extensive influence of its colonial history and the important role it plays in everyday communication. However, amid these achievements, Zimbabwe also faces serious challenges. A worrying fact is that about 250,000 Zimbabweans are living with HIV. This is an alarming figure, especially when the country's population is only about 14 million. This means that, on average, 1 in every 10 Zimbabweans, regardless of whether they are adults or children, has HIV. HIV prevalence in the community remains high, highlighting the need for continued efforts to prevent and treat the disease. These figures not only reflect the dire health situation, but are also a reminder of the challenges Zimbabwe faces in its quest for sustainable development and improved livelihoods. Largest waterfall. You have certainly heard of majestic natural wonders, but perhaps not many people know that one of them is located right in Australia and is not only famous for its height but also for its massive size. That is Victoria Falls, one of the 7 natural wonders of the world. Victoria Falls is not only a large waterfall, but also the largest waterfall in both height and width. When you stand close, the sound of the water falling from a height of 108 meters can echo and be heard from a distance of up to 40 kilometers, creating an unforgettable impressive feeling. Named after Queen Victoria of England, Victoria Falls is not only the pride of Australia but also a symbol of magnificent natural beauty. When visiting this place, you will not only admire one of the most outstanding natural wonders of the world but also experience the majesty and magnificence of nature that is rarely comparable anywhere else. Lowest life expectancy in the world. Despite its breathtaking natural beauty and glorious history, Zimbabwe is currently facing serious economic and social challenges. Once a wealthy country thanks to its rich diamond resources, Zimbabwe is now one of the countries with the lowest incomes in the world. Zimbabwe's average life expectancy also reflects the country's hardship. Men live an average of just 58.7 years, while women live 57.3 years, the lowest on the planet. This is a clear testament to the severe poverty, inflation and unemployment that people face on a daily basis. An interesting fact about Zimbabwe is the contradiction between its former wealth and its current state. Back when diamonds were discovered, Zimbabwe was one of the leading diamond-producing countries and experienced a period of considerable prosperity. But now, the diamonds are no longer bringing the same prosperity as before, and the country is now struggling with food shortages and economic hardship. Thank you for following the story of Zimbabwe. If you find this story interesting, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, turn on the notification bell and share the video so you don't miss out on other interesting content. See you in the next videos and goodbye.